On this St. Patrick's Day, in the year of all the hidden stuff coming out, I present to you St. Patty's Day Truth. St. Patrick's Day was made an official Christian feast day in the early 17th century and observed by the Catholic Church, the Anglican Communion, especially the Church of Ireland, the Eastern Orthodox Church, and the Lutheran Church. The day commemorates St. Patrick and the arrival of Christianity in Ireland, and by extension, celebrates the heritage and culture of the Irish in general. Among the legends associated with St. Patrick is that he stood atop an Irish hillside and banished snakes from Ireland, prompting all serpents to slither into the sea. Scholars believe that the snake story is an allegory for St. Patrick's eradication of pagan ideology. Because all scholars admit snakes were never in Ireland. But who were these pagans? As far as Ireland is concerned, these are two sets of people, both attached to the serpent or the snake. As far back as ancient Egypt, the snake has been used to represent certain religions that believe in reincarnation, the afterlife, and knowledge. Think the Bible, where the serpent was around the tree of knowledge. The first set of people were the Druids. So reading from Celtic knowledge, St. Patrick was born around 450 AD on the Scottish border. His father was a Christian Roman soldier and his mother a native British woman. Only 2 of his letters survived, telling details about his life. When he was 14 to 16 years old, he was taken into captivity in Ireland by the Irish raiders in Britain. He tended cattle for more than 6 years. In this time of captivity, he drew closer to God before finally escaping on a trading ship. He returned years later to spread Catholicism throughout Ireland while destroying the Druids who resisted Roman and British rule in the Ireland. Because he believed so strongly in the Catholic Church, he thought that anyone who was not Christian had to become one in order to be saved. Those who resisted were slaughtered in the Christian holy wars of Gaul. The Irish people at that time were happy and doing quite well. However, St. Patrick was insistent that the pagan Celts convert to Christianity. He noticed that the Druids were the most powerful people of the Celts, so he figured if he could convert them, then the rest of the people would follow. When the Druids refused to be bribed by the Romans, this angered the rulers of the Catholic Church. St. Patrick declared that he would drive all of the snakes out of Ireland. Snakes was a common metaphor for the Druids. The second set of people were the leprechauns. So reading from So Am I books. The first little bit of symbolism that we're going to decode is that of the leprechaun and the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. The leprechaun changed into a concept to be sort of a fairy who dressed in an iconic coat and worked as a shoemaker. These leprechauns would save their earnings, being gold coins, in a pot and place them at the end of a rainbow. It became a legend that if you can capture one of them, they could provide you 3 wishes. The title leprechaun comes from the Old Irish lecorpun, a compound of the roots lu, meaning small, and corp, meaning body. Despite what the Irish referred to as the diminutive twa, they also went via some other names such as the acon. It turns out that the leprechauns, or leper-acons, of its legend were truly identified as the Akan Twa people of African descent. These were diminutive people that grew to a height on average of about 4'11", which is quite short. Many years ago, they came to Ireland. The Twa were skilled workers and had advanced technical expertise in the production of medicine, metallurgy, textiles, and clothing, and interestingly, shoemaking, which Caucasians' idea was magical. So we conclude here that it used to be the Twa humans that are now recognized as leprechauns. The ebook Ancient and Modern Britons, with David McRitchie's assistant, states black is the word dub in Gaelic, as in Dublin. It is the Twa that was chased out of Ireland by St. Patrick, and not, as the story goes, real-life serpents. In reality, the history of the holiday is a secret attempt to disguise genocide, as St. Patrick led the charge to hunt down these men and women in order to kill them. I just so happen to have some ancient writings from around that time from this book, History of the Ancient Britons from the Earliest Period to the Invasion of the Saxons, compiled from the original authorities. It was originally copyrighted in 1847. Chapter 23, The Mission of Palladius and St. Patrick to Ireland. Whilst the Pelagian heresy was distracting the church in Britain, the sister island, Ireland, up to this time almost unnoticed by historians, was imbibing the precepts of Christianity from the teaching, first of Palladius, and secondly of the famous St. Patrick. The Bishop of Rome in the year 425 was Celestine, who, urged by pious zeal for the Orthodox cause, commanded Celestius, one of the disciples of Pelagius, to be expelled from Italy. In the same year, he sent Palladius to convert the Scots, who inhabited the north of Ireland and the western Isles of Scotland. But the missionary met with no success and was obliged to flee to Britain, where he shortly afterwards died in the country of the Picts. Upon the death of Palladius, Pope Celestine appointed Patricius, commonly called St. Patrick, to fulfill the mission which his predecessor had abandoned. Patrick was the son of a deacon named Calpurnius, who lived at Bonaverne Tabernae, near the village of Enon, places which have baffled the ingenuity of antiquaries, for while some writers assert that Patrick was a native of Gower in Glamorganshire, others maintain that he was born in Clydesdale in North Britain, and others that Armorica must be considered as the land of his birth. The original name of Patrick was Memuin, or Megontius. He was born about the year 384, and as he tells us in his confession, was only 16 years of age when he was made a captive. He was carried into Ireland and became the slave of Melku, king of Dalradia. Escaping thus, after some years of captivity, he repaired to Rome and long remained in that city, devoting himself to literature and the study of theology. When the news of the death of Palladius reached Rome, Germanus had left Britain and proceeded to Ravenna to present a petition on behalf of the inhabitants of Armorica. Whilst he was in Italy, he became acquainted with the young Patrick, and it was principally by his instigation that the Pope chose the young man to become the bearer of the tidings of salvation to Ireland. In company with Patrick went an old priest named Seger, together with other ecclesiastics whose names, with the exception of two, Auxilius the priest and Icernius the deacon, have not been recorded. When they arrived in Gaul, the future apostle of the Irish was considered bishop, and at the same time assumed the name by which he has since been known. After all the necessary ceremonies were fulfilled, the missionaries set sail and soon landed on the coast of Britain, where they remained a few days and preached. But as this was not their ultimate destination, they continued their journey towards Ireland. Of their adventures in Cornwall and Wales, through which they were said to have passed, Giraldus Cambrensis and John of Tigma have related many marvelous stories, which, though they may not merit our belief, yet are in harmony with the growing superstition of their age, and do not impugn the claim of St. Patrick to the honor of having first converted the Irish to Christianity. It was in the year 432 or 433 that the pious emissaries of Celestine reached the scene of their labors, and it was in the 5th year of the reign of one King Logier, and in the 5330th year of the world, as we learn from the British writer Nennius, that they first began to convert and baptize the people. The holy man spent 40 years in preaching the gospel to the inhabitants of Ireland, and in the course of this long ministry is said to have wrought miracles more numerous and wonderful than those which were performed by Christ himself. He displayed all the virtues of an apostle, gave sight to the blind, cleansed lepers, made the deaf to hear, cast out devils from the bodies of those who were possessed, raised 9 men to life, and at his own cost redeemed many of both sexes from slavery. Even the more common and probable labors of the missionary have been aggravated in order to excite the wonder and admiration of the ignorant. He is said to have written 365 ABCs, or short catechisms, and to have founded the same number of churches. He also ordained 365 bishops and 3,000 priests. In Connaught alone, he converted and baptized 12,000 persons, and in one day christened 7 kings, son of Almagith. As if to complete the parallel between the saint and the Savior, the ancient writers were audaciously related that he fasted 40 days and 40 nights on a hill in Connaught called Crescenelli, where in the air he offered up to the Almighty 3 petitions on behalf of those Irishmen who should receive the faith of Christ. His first prayer was that every Irishman might be repentant, however late in life. The second was that they should never fall a prey to the barbarians, and the third, that no inhabitant of that country might be alive on the day of judgment. And to ensure the last of these petitions, it was promised that the whole island should be deluged by a flood of water 7 years before the final consummation of all things. In process of time, St. Patrick died at a very advanced age, and this fact in his history has been the occasion of a comparison instituted between him and Moses. For the grave of the Irish missionary, like that of the Hebrew lawgiver, has never yet been found. And as his very existence has in later ages been considered doubtful, it is probable that the place of his sepulchre will remain a secret to posterity. So you might ask yourself, what does all this mean? Well, I think what we can take from this is that there are ancient writings, stories, and historical proof that the Druids were driven out of Ireland, that the Acons, who have become some sort of fantasy, were actually driven into the sea, and all of it at the behest of the Catholic Church. And so when we celebrate St. Patrick's Day, we're celebrating genocide, regardless of what the modern day searches tell us. These ancient writings don't lie, they've just been suppressed. So today, I'll wish you happy Serpent of Knowledge Day. And remember, knowledge is power.